So the Patheos blog has a lot of great authors out there, especially in the non-religious section. And this one comes from Lovejoy Feminism that's out there. In a recent news article, Ken Ham noted that the high level of belief in aliens in our society and asked why some people are so ready to believe in aliens but yet reject God. Because it's more plausible that...
Yeah, it's a question of plausibility and probability.
What's the equation? What is it? Fermi's equation, or which is the one where they're like talking about where in the universe you have this many galaxies, and in each galaxy you have this many planets, and on these planets you have this much chance of this being this kind of culture. I'm sure somebody will let us know.
I'm sure. I know what you're talking about, but I also can't.
I keep thinking of Fermi's paradox, but I don't think that's it.
I don't think so.
Let me Google that real quick. Fermi paradox. I have no idea what that one is. Contradiction between the lack of evidence of high probability of estimates for existence. Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Oh,
yeah, Fermi paradox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad I got that one right. Oh, it's the Drake equation.
Oh, yeah, the Drake equation. The
probabilistic argument
paradox is the Christmas light thing.
Yeah, the lack of evidence and high probability estimates for the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations. And the Drake equation is the probabilistic argument used to estimate the number of active communicative extraterrestrial civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy. Yeah, okay, never mind. That's going back to fucking Carl Sagan Cosmos shit that I remember back when I was younger. Anyway, Ken Ham strays awfully close to a greater reality, seeming without actually realizing it. And this is his quote here. It's interesting that so many people are willing to believe in alien life, for which there is no evidence.
No,
let's not go with that. Let's not go with evidence.
Yeah.
When you're talking about God.
We have evidence that life is likely to exist in lots of places.
Yeah.
That's
likely.
Not
but we don't have actual here's a fossil.
Yeah. No, we don't have direct evidence, but we have
were you there? You went there.
Yeah. Neither were you, buddy. You haven't been to all the planets. Don't tell me there's no life.
I know, right?
That's almost like you saying you weren't there. You haven't been to the other planet, so you weren't there. Shut up.
And Ken Ham says here that people often automatically assume, for example, that any pulsating light, signal from outer space, or unexplained flying object is from aliens. Yet these same people will often reject the overwhelming evidence of God's existence seen throughout what he has made.
Yeah, that's both of you are using the word evidence wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are both doing it wrong.
And from the Lovejoy Feminism blog says, this is such a strange parallel to make. Just last week, him at Meta wrote about a picture that went viral because people said a moth caught in the foreground was an angel. You've seen the picture, haven't you? Where it's like a picture of a truck where it looks like an angel, like it's just a vague figure with light reflecting off of it. It's like it's a moth.
It's a moth.
And it says here that it doesn't take much Googling to find cases where people have claimed that a light falling in a particular pattern or a glare on camera are angels. And the person that writes this blog says that human beings are like patterns. When we think we found one, even if we haven't, we like to attribute it to something.
Yeah.
Sometimes that means we attribute it to supernatural religious forces, miracles, visions, and angels. Sometimes it means we attribute it to other supernatural or near supernatural phenomena such as ghosts or aliens.
Well, like these what you assign it to are cultural.
Yeah.
You're not getting people in rural villages in China having visions of Christ. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So how do you explain that? How do you you're not getting people getting visions of Christian angels where their culture just doesn't have that concept, or it's not discussed enough, where it's just not a widely held thing. Cultures that don't believe in ghosts don't have ghost sightings. They have other sightings. They have sightings of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the author here says that it's ridiculous to think that something you see in the sky is a UFO, and it is. It's just as ridiculous to think that something weird you see in the sky is an angel. Of course, the picture is not as simplistic as this, and it's possible that Ham is just a condemnatory of angel sightings, but when it comes to belief in alien life and the supernatural, there are at least two things going on. First, there is a belief in the possibility of a thing, God's existence or the existence of aliens, based on large form reasoning.
Yes.
Ken Ham would say that the very existence of the universe is evidence of a creator God. An individual thinks that extraterrestrial life is likely, might argue that with billions of stars and millions of years of time, it is unlikely that alien life hasn't evolved somewhere.
Right.
And I'm willing to concede that that one's a lot more fucking logical.
Yeah, that's very logical.
Life existing, evolving somewhere else is not the same as saying it's been here.
Life is ubiquitous across the fucking universe. I'm guaranteeing that it's ubiquitous. It's something that just
I agree.
Fucking happens with. It's like the laws of the six constants that we have in the universe, where if one of them was to be tweaked, the whole fucking universe wouldn't exist. You know, you have the multiverse theory where the gravitation constant isn't the same, or the mass of an electron isn't the same, and it just doesn't fucking work. There's probably billions, if you believe multiverse theory or bubble universe theory, where there's probably billions and quadrillions of failed fucking universes, and we're just in the one where it just happened to have things lined up right this time. You know?
It's amazing that we live in a universe that supports life.
Well, and if we're talking probabilities,
and if it works here, if it works on this planet, we're nothing fucking special.
It's very there are far more. Like, there's far more likely planets. Like, and what life looks like on that is, I would love to know.
And
I would love to know.
Where, you know, the mote of dust suspended on a sunbeam of light kind of thing, where it's like, we're on a fucking mud ball. Yeah. Like out in the middle of an unfucking nobody cares section of the galaxy, you know?
In an unremarkable galaxy next to an unremarkable star. On the edge, like we're just
special.
A tiny little blue dot suspended in a sunbeam. Everything that has been and will ever be that is human is there. Well, maybe not will ever be, but what and it's not likely to think that life evolved in a way that would function the way we do. So one thing that we often do is assume that all life is exploratory, right? But obviously that's just not true. Not all life is exploratory, and there is no pinnacle of evolution, right?
No.
But one thing that humans did was we ventured out across open water. We left Africa into open water.
Yeah, the Dothraki wouldn't do that.
No. And not all societies did, but some people did. And then humans just kept going. And there's something in our species that was evolutionarily selected for that movement and exploration was
curiosity.
Curiosity was good for us. But what would massively intelligent life look like on another planet? Would they even want to explore? Do they just inhabit one small region of their planet that they're the most quote unquote intelligent life on that planet? That's a possibility. And that would mean that they would never, ever, ever consider looking skyward. Mm-hmm. That's a possibility. And they might even be smarter than us in so many ways. But just exploration is not necessarily a guarantee. We might be the only species that got advanced enough to think about going skyward and then does it and tries to explore. And if think about, maybe we're not even the only one, but that would still be very rare that evolutionary drive would happen in disparate worlds. And then they would have to happen at the same time, where they could find each other and develop technology enough to find each other within tiny little spans of time. Mm-hmm. And you start talking about all this, and then you're like, no, God did it. And suddenly, aliens did it. And it's like, no, that's not enough. That's not enough of an answer. You're both
That is way
wrong.
too simplistic of an answer.
That's not enough of an answer. That does not count for infinity.
So the second point that the author here brings up is that there is a belief in the possibility of a thing, either God's existence or the existence of aliens, based on an individual or small form incidences. A Christian might look at a pattern of light in a hospital or a moth in the foreground of a photo and see an angel. Someone who believes in aliens might look at a shape in the sky or an odd light at night and ascribe that to alien life. And I think they're talking about the people that are the UFO believers kind of thing. Not us people where we're like, yeah, probably UFOs. You know, UFO to me doesn't mean like aliens did it. That just means that's a weird fucking thing in the sky. I don't know what that is.
Could be a lot of things.
Yeah.
It could be lots of things. Ball lightning was a thing when I was a kid in Louisiana. So let's see. There was a study that came out where it had a graphic where it said, belief in extraterrestrial life varies dramatically by religious affiliation or lack thereof. So percentage of respondents that were asked the question, do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrial life? What do you think the biggest return would be for this one? Would be, okay, I'll just tell you, it's agnostic, atheist, and other are like by far the largest percentages of it. Or yes, I believe in their existence of extraterrestrial life. The smallest one, besides I prefer not to respond with a yes, or, you know, the prefer not to respond gave the most answers, and I'm not sure, because that's just being agnostic about this kind of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm agnostic on the existence of life. I mean, I'm
Christians
fairly
are
certain
split.
it exists, but until I know.
Like agnostic atheists are 55% say yes, they do believe. No, 15% say no, they don't believe, and 30% are agnostic about the whole thing. Christians are split in like a three-way tie. Yes, no, and not sure. Like all around 33%.
Wow.
So, I mean, they by far are the least believing in this kind of thing. Hindus believe much more than Christians do. Jewish believe more than the Hindus do. Muslims, surprisingly, even more than the Jewish folk. Just second to atheists. So,
wow.
Really interesting there.
That is interesting.
And this was like 58,000 people surveyed. So it's not a small sample number.
That's a big sample.
That is.
No, sorry, 5,800. Sorry, 5,800. Sorry. Yeah, not
Still
quite
a big sample.
Big,
Still, it's a
my bad.
sample.
Unfortunately, the study does not break down the reasons for belief in extraterrestrial life based on the massive number of planets in our universe, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
There was also a breakdown of the belief in extraterrestrial life by Christian denomination, which is interesting for reasons that this author will explain shortly, is that who do you think the least believing, group of Christians would be?
Evangelicals.
Yeah.
Yeah, Baptists. Baptists and other are about 20% say yes, that there's alien life out there, but most of them say no. Eastern Orthodox and Catholic are more, because Catholics have more of a, as much
Catholics
as they
are weird, man. Like for most Catholics I know, like 90% of Catholic women who use birth control, even though the Catholic
they're
Church
liberal.
Yeah, they're liberal, even though like the Catholic Church is intensely conservative. Most Catholics I know, it's just the idea of God is comforting, and then the rest, like that's just it. It's just they're not going to dive into the logistics of it. It's just comfort. It's just a belief that there is a God, and then the rest of the shit is up for us to figure out. That's it. And like it's this really weird cognitive dissonance for them in the Catholics I've known, where it's like science is real. This is real, but my God belief is over here. And that's just for me personally.
It's like non-overlapping magisteria.
Yeah, exactly. To them, they're not, like when I've talked to my dad, he's just,
they're able to compartmentalize it.
Yeah, it is compartmentalized. It's just this part of their experience is God, and that this belief, and then the rest of it is evidence is needed. And God of the Gaps, for a lot of Catholics I've known, God of the Gaps is irrelevant, because like they don't need to explain how God did things. It just is. It's just a constant, and the rest of it is for us to figure out. It's really interesting how. That's most Catholics I've known. Obviously, that's anecdotal, but there is numbers to back that up in the fact that Catholics are largely Democrat. Catholics are, women. Catholic women use birth control. The Catholics, by and large, as a demographic, don't go conservative, which is very interesting. So, yeah, like I just think it's how long the Catholic Church has been around and how casual being a Catholic has become.
Yeah. So Kinham explains his opposition to aliens as follows here. It says that, now the Bible doesn't say whether there is or not animal or plant life in outer space. I certainly suspect not. The earth was created for human life. And the sun and the moon were created for signs and our seasons and declare the glory of God. So in other words, the entire purpose of the universe is wrapped up in God's plan for humankind. The sun, the moon, and the stars were created for...
Why not make the Earth work better then?
Yeah, why not make it more hospitable?
Nice, yeah. Why do people die in earthquakes? That doesn't make sense.
So Ham does go on and he says, and I do believe that there can't be other intelligent beings in outer space because of the meaning of the gospel. You see, the Bible makes it clear that Adam's sin affected the whole universe. This means that any aliens would also be affected by Adam's sin, but because they are not Adam's descendants, they can't have salvation. Man, that's fucking weird.
Why would bloodline matter? That's ridiculous.
One day, the whole universe will be judged by fire. That's even fucking crazier. And there will be new heavens and a new heaven and earth. God's Son stepped into history to be Jesus Christ, the God-man, to be our relative, and to be the perfect sacrifice for sin, the savior of mankind. Jesus did not become the God Klingon or the God Martian, it says here. Only descendants of Adam can be saved.
Well, but wait. Why would you assume Jesus didn't become God Klingon?
And I've been watching a lot of anime recently, and this guy needs to watch Neon Genesis Evangelion if he wants to talk about descendants of Adam. Sorry, I'm getting that's super nerdy for some folks out there that might enjoy that joke out there, but God's Son remains the God-man as our savior. In fact, the Bible makes it clear that we see the Father through the Son, and we see the Son through his word. To suggest that aliens could respond to the gospel is just totally wrong.
But why?
What if the aliens from like District 9 or from like Alien Nation decided to become like full-on evangelicals like that? I mean, that would be worrisome, but at the same time, it'd be fucking fascinating for that kind of thing to happen. Yeah,
but why couldn't it? Like, he just says, so God's telling a story to humans. So
yeah, it only pertains to humans.
I mean,
the rest of you can fuck off. You know?
We don't tell stories without personification. It doesn't happen. Like we constantly project human emotions onto, say, animals. I mean, look at Bruce the shark in Finding Nemo, right? Like, even our stories about animals are we personify, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, you know, if we're looking at
go to like an AA meeting for carnivores.
So cute. Fish are.
Oh, that's such a clever movie.
I mean, it doesn't. Well, and his whole reasoning, it does not make sense. If your God created an entire universe for one tiny planet, why the fuck create an entire universe? Like,
well, why not make the planet bigger?
The solar system would just be fine.
If God knew we were going to have overpopulation problems, why not make the planet bigger?
Oh yeah, I mean,
not that we actually, most of our space isn't even taken up, and overpopulation is something we absolutely could address, but capitalism fucks us over on that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But the thing is, like, there's so many things on this planet that are so inhospitable. We can't function on
90% of this planet.
We cannot exist on. We cannot survive on.
Right.
Like, why? If this planet was made for us, why is it so inhospitable?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really good at surviving in it, but that's just relative, right? Like, we're just good at it compared to a lot, but we're not even the most successful species if we're talking like covering the planet. Ants are kicking our ass.
Yeah.
Ants are kicking our
falls
ass.
back. This falls back specifically to the water that thinks that the puddle was made specifically for it.
Yeah.
That you get from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But at the same time, it's like, it's not the same thing, because this place wasn't perfectly made for us. It isn't perfectly suited to us.
Horribly imperfect. And so that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't understand how he has that, unless he's coming from such a place of privilege. There it is. Hold on. He's coming from such a place of privilege that he has not had to exist in the places that are inhospitable to human life. He has not had to exist in, say, food deserts in the inner city. He hasn't even had to experience that. He came from
Australia, though. I mean, that's inhospitable to humankind.
But we've done a really good... They did.
They kicked him out, yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, if he's grown up middle class, which I guarantee he has, he's always had air conditioning. He's always had food in the refrigerator. Like, he doesn't have to consider these concepts. It's the same thing like white people who can't wrap their heads around white privilege, who are like, I'm not privileged, I don't work for what I have. It's that same thing where it's like, they tell you that you're ungrateful if you are complaining about certain things. They say you're ungrateful, and you're like, no, there's just shit that's fucked up. And they're like, I've never seen it. And he says, this earth was so perfectly created for us, but it wasn't. And that's because he refuses to see it that way, because he's never had to.
Right.
He's never had to see, to actually see how it fails us pretty much 100% of the time.
Right.
Well, and he doesn't understand the tenacity of life. I mean, we have grown up despite the planet not really being made for us. I mean, honestly, if you want to talk about something that's made for this planet, algae. Algae's fucking, it works fucking everywhere, you know?
E. coli.
Certain single-cell bacteria or like viruses and stuff. They are more suited to being on this planet than we are.
Single-cell bacteria.
Water bears. Fucking
water bears. Kicking our ass evolutionarily. Like, they're just fucking great. Like, nothing kills them. I mean,
even the vacuum of space is nothing to them. You know?
Exactly. We're fucking fine. Like, what? No, we're fairly weak. Now we're big and we're good at tools and patterns, and therefore we see our success, which is obvious on the planet because we can affect the whole fucking thing as a collective.
Yeah.
As a collective. But
well, we are collectives. That's the funny thing about this shit is that
we cannot live without it. And yet our collective culture has taken on a value of individualism, which is not the same as valuing the individual. But
I'm wondering if you understood what I meant there. Like, as a human, we are a giant fucking collective.
We are nothing without our bacteria.
But gut bacteria. I mean, even the fucking mitochondria that power our cells don't belong there.
No,
they weren't ours. They weren't
DNA.
even animal. Like, and just the bacteria that lives on our skin. Just if we could actually strip our skin of the bacteria that lives on it, it would kill us dead. It would kill us dead. We are nothing. Like, but there are bacteria on our skin that don't need our skin to survive. But we need our bacteria. Like, these minutia of little, but then you would meet a Christian and they would say, that's proof of God's ingenious plan. And I would say, it's not, though, because that same bacteria on our skin that we need to live can cause us illnesses.
Yeah, the same gut bacteria that cause our food to be digested a certain way. If it's ingested through this hole, will fucking kill you. You know?
Yeah.
The acid in our stomachs can kill you. The acid existing in our stomachs. That's a terrible system. It's a bad system. Our teeth killed us. That's why we died so young back in the day. Because of our teeth.
Fucking abscess, yeah.
Just fucking infections. I mean, I've had a UTI that was so bad that I was pretty sure that if I didn't get treatment, it could have killed me. And that I was young. I was in my early 20s. And I would
did you have some learning to do?
Yeah, hot tubs is a bitch.
Don't go. Anyway, so final note here is that, like, Ken, when you're thinking about, humans are the only thing that exists, like, you need to fucking understand what brought about humanity in the first place, but that's also asking like an elephant to play me the piano like on Big. It's something you're never going to see them do unless you specifically train them to do that.
Well,
and we would have to go to absolutely horrible methods to train Ken Ham on learning fucking evolutionary theory and understanding the very fact that we are our own biomes, ourselves. And so,
well, no, he's too afraid, and his worldview is so freaking narrow that he discounts the entire goddamn universe as relevant.
At this point, his entire well-being is dependent on him believing this shit. His entire income, his entire community, everything he has ever built around his life is dependent on him believing in creationism. You know how hard it is to convince somebody to just disbelieve something that their entire existence relies on them?
Yeah.
You can't do it. You cannot do it.
Like I said, we'd have to break out the fucking hooks on sticks. And
but maybe if people weren't reliant on having to produce meaningfulness in a capitalist society. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going back to this, but I'm just saying if we had a universal base income, it'd be a lot easier to convince people away from these ideas.
But we're also very much off topic. So let's just say that when it comes to aliens versus, religion, it's more plausible to me because we have the numbers when it comes to aliens being something that could exist, as opposed to the infinite regressive theory that you get when it comes to fucking gods existing.
It's more likely that, like, probability speaking, multiple gods is more likely that it created a chaotic planet than it is a singular god.
Yeah, because that singular god is really fucking hobbled when it comes to what he can and can't do.
It's very
as we've seen.
If he's a perfect god and he can't create evil, then how come evil exists? But then he created the devil, so the devil created evil, but then that means he created evil. God